Does anybody else like when a book has fun chapter titles?
La la la, clicky keyboard noises, la la la, keyboard noises.
So this might be me remembering my childhood incorrectly, but I feel like there was a time when the majority of books had chapters that had titles or subtitles or however you want to define it. I don't see them often anymore. I like little touches in books that make them a little bit different from other books, and this is just one of those little things that I just love seeing in a book. They're not usually as fun when you see them in a classic novel because they're like 13 sentences long and it's basically a Cliff's Notes version of what happens in the chapter. But I still kind of like to see those too. And that's not to say that I hate seeing chapter one or X person's POV because that's fine. I actually like knowing right off the bat who is the focus so I don't have to try and figure it out over the next half a page. But a uniquely named chapter title is just fun to see. I think the best chapter titles I've ever come across has been from a book called Charming by Elliot James. It's the beginning of the Pax Arcana series. According to my Goodreads, I read it back in 2018, and even though I never read any other books in the series, probably because they didn't have the sequels at Second and Charles, I still think about those chapter titles every once in a while and giggle a little bit. I pulled up a reading sample of the book on Amazon just to see if the titles were as fun as I remembered it, and I'll let you be the judge. If shoving you is wrong, I don't want to do right. Back to our regularly scheduled deprogramming. Which one of you ordered the steak, spelled Stake, instead of steak like the food? The Norse Whisperer. Isn't that just so much fun? I honestly think that book might be the reason why I like naming my chapters as much as I do. It's kind of fun to see a pattern forming when you see titled chapters. Sometimes they're kind of done as like a tongue-in-cheek allusion to what's going to happen, or maybe it's a play on words, or maybe it's a line of dialogue from a character. Sometimes it is just a quick synopsis of the chapter, like a two-word, like explosions everywhere. And I do the same thing in my books. I think since 2018 I've been naming my chapters. And I still note what chapter that I'm writing. So I guess technically my chapter titles are chapter subtitles, but I just love throwing a little wordplay into the mix. Now, if you look back at some of my earliest writing, you will not see chapter titles. I mean, the very earliest writings did not have chapters. They were just 80 pages nonstop or whatever, and I had no breaks for anything. But Slightly Supernatural for sure and the Hook book have both gotten the titled chapter treatment. Now, I don't show too much about my stories since I haven't published them and I'm not really marketing them right now because, again, they're not published and one of them's not even finished. But I did kind of want to share a couple of my favorite titles that I've come up with, and these ones are all from Slightly Supernatural. I mean, I'm going to do some more rewrites, but for the most part, it's done. So, chapter one of Slightly Supernatural is actually titled, I'm the Only Sane Person in This Alley. We also have 85% Sure I'm Dead. Cue the conspiracy theories. And my personal favorite, When You Beat Your Feelings into Submission, Everyone Loses. Now, the Hook Book's chapter titles are not as silly as Slightly Supernatural's because Hook Book is meant to be a bit more serious of a story. But I still named the chapters anyway. These are all subject to change. I could delete some chapters. I might combine some stuff. It's just a rough draft. These are all based off of titles that I put in my outline. An Introduction to Piracy, A Long Drop from a Short Rope, Not So Strange Bedfellows, and Mutineers are among some of the tentative title chapters I have so far. And every time I get to start a new chapter, it's kind of like a little reward getting to type in the fun little chapter title before I get started. It's almost like a little incentive to keep writing, I guess. And speaking of rewards, I had decided that when I finally finish a draft of the Hook book, I'm getting a haircut. So the next time you see a video intro of me and my hair is short and potentially a different color, you'll know before I even have to say anything. I'm really hoping that that kind of puts a little fire under my butt to get it done quicker because the grow out on my last haircut is finally starting to get on my nerves a bit. Hoping it'll work because I need a win this month. April has been a super fun month, heavy on the sarcasm. So I redid all of my seeds after the cats got a hold of all of my seedlings, and a couple new plants were starting to grow. It was looking really good, and I was all excited again. I took them outside for a couple of hours, and when I went to bring them back in, they were all shriveled up and just dead. So I replanted all the ones that had died, and I left all the ones that hadn't sprouted just still seeds in the dirt, thinking maybe they'll come back up since they never sprouted in the first place. None of that stuff sprouted, so I just said to heck with it, and I replanted all the other stuff again. I moved the cat grass into a pot. The next day, the cats ate all the cat grass, so I reseeded that with lavender. We're going to see if any of that comes up. At this point, we're just throwing stuff at a wall and seeing what sticks. I'm really trying to get these vegetables going to prove to myself that I can keep a plant alive. I just want to be able to say, this dinner was made from stuff from my garden, and I can't do it because I can't keep anything alive. I had what I thought was just bad allergies from going to an Easter egg hunt and then screaming my lungs out at a wrestling match. But it turned out that I had a bad cold or something because I was knocked on my butt for almost a week and a half, which means I haven't written for most of April because at the beginning of the month I took a few days to get these rooms switched, and then I was sick for a week and a half. And we got 6 baby chicks as well because we're kind of taking some steps to be a bit more self-sufficient. If you follow me along on Instagram, you have probably seen a couple pictures of them by now. It's been super fun for me because chickens kind of freak me out. We're kind of hoping that if we raise them from baby chicks, that as adults they won't freak me out as much. And as we come to a close on April, did you know the phrase April showers bring May flowers comes from a 16th century poem by Thomas Tusser? The words have changed a little bit, but basically that sentiment is accredited to that poem. And now you know. Thanks for sticking around and listening to me talk about why I like chapter titles and sharing a couple of the ones that I have written. Let me know down in the comments if you write chapter titles for yourself or if you just stick to the standard 1, 2, 3, this person's POV, or however you do it, or just, Roman numerals it. I want to know. My name is Jennifer McPeak. I am a presently unpublished author. I am currently working on a few different things right now, including a fantasy adventure with romantic elements based on Captain Hook and a series of paranormal mysteries that will later on have some romance in it, but right now it's more paranormal mystery. If you'd like to follow me along on this writing and publishing journey, and I would love if you did, I post new videos every other Wednesday, and I talk about reading, writing, arts and crafts, and I occasionally do musings on things I find interesting. Subscribe if you like, follow along, get your notifications, and with that, I have to get ready for work. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Later!
La la la, clicky keyboard noises, la la la, keyboard noises.